Thank you. I'm good. You can start now.
Good morning, everybody. I can't see you. I hope you can see me. I'm Bert Thornton, and I'm here with Dr. Sherry Hartnett. Dr. Sherry Hartnett will introduce herself to you in a second, but I thought I would take a minute and tell you who I am and why I'm here. I am the retired President and CEO and Vice Chairman Emeritus of Waffle House. Of course, everybody's eating in a Waffle House. It is the largest sit-down, full-time, 24-hour restaurant chain on the planet. Sherry and I have written a book called High Impact Mentoring, a practical guide to creating value in other people's lives. And that's what we're going to talk to you about today, the power of mentoring. So Sherry, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Great. Hi, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here today. I'm a professor at the University of West Florida, and I'm a consultant at Hartnett Academy, a mentor and an author. And I founded the Executive Mentor Program and an annual Women in Leadership Conference at the University of West Florida. Before I joined academia, though, I spent more than 20 years in the corporate world as a marketing executive, most recently as the Chief Marketing Officer for a large regional healthcare system. So, Bert, back to you.
Yes, well, in addition to being my stint with 40 years, by the way, with Waffle House as president and COO, I also have an affiliation with several academic institutions, Georgia Tech, where I went to school, and frankly, I have 3 daughters, and each of my daughters graduated from Georgia Tech as well. Also, the University of West Florida, where I am a entrepreneur in residence at the College of Business Center for Entrepreneurship, and I'm also a founding board member of the Museum School of Avondale Estates, which is the premier charter public elementary middle school in the state of Georgia. So my passion is about education and helping people achieve. So turns out Sherry and I wrote a book, and the title of the book is High Impact Mentoring, a practical guide to creating value in other people's lives. And people say, well, why did you write the book? And the answer is, it turns out that there is a rather ironic situation in America today. On one hand, you have this multitude of rising high achievers and emerging leaders who would benefit greatly from the wisdom and experience of a great mentor like you, Karen DeGrasse. And on the other hand, we've got this legion of savvy organizational leaders who could, would, and should fit that bill, but they're not getting together. And why is that? One of the reasons is many of the rising stars I've met, talked to, don't even realize there's a resource like that out there. And if they did, they probably might be a little shy about asking. On the other hand, this group of organizational leaders, potentially great mentors, don't have any conduit back to the mentees. They don't know how to get to them. And if they did, they might be a little shy, thinking that they might not do it right. So that's why Sherry and I wrote the book, High Impact Mentoring, a practical guide to creating value in other people's lives. You can get it on Amazon. Frankly, it's been sold out twice, about to be sold out the 3rd time. The publisher just advised me we're going to have to send them a slug of books. But the end of the story is, I wrote the micro piece. I wrote the small, we wrote it in 2 parts. I wrote the first half, Sherry wrote the second half. And I wrote the micro piece, the across the table piece, do this, don't do that, say this, don't say that, how to size up a potential mentee and how to deliver a positive, successful, impactful mentoring experience, one that the mentee will take for life and become, hopefully, a super achiever. So Sherry, talk about your half.
Great. So let me tell you my why. Mentoring is no longer nice to have, especially now when people crave strong work relationships. It's a must have. People want a sense of connection. Your employees expect to be developed. And in today's day and age, everybody is screaming about needing retention, and a good mentoring program can help you retain your high performers. and mentoring can help support your diversity and equity goals. For example, if your company goal is to increase the diversity of a leadership team, a mentoring program can help you grow and develop people into those leadership positions. Mentoring transforms lives, as Bert talked about, and it can transform an organization. I know people have mentored me in my life. They've made a difference in my life. I've conducted research and case studies on the topic, and I've seen hundreds and hundreds of students benefit. Actually, I think it's 1,000 students now that have benefited from the Executive Mentor Program at UWF. We know that mentoring works, and creating value in people's lives is such an important topic. Bert and I are both really passionate about it. And it's valuable for companies of all sizes, from small teams of people to large global companies, because mentoring keeps people engaged, both the mentees and the mentors. The mentors are just as engaged as the mentees in helping each other out. But here's the key, and this is one of the reasons Bert and I wrote the book. Mentoring doesn't happen on its own. It's not intuitive. It is a learned skill. In the first half, as Bert mentioned, he talks about how to be a great mentor. And anybody that wants to be a great mentor really needs to read that first half of the book. And in the second half of the book, I share a 7-step framework to help organizations launch their own successful mentoring program. It's really a blueprint, a practical guide to how to do it right. Lessons learned, success tips. And people always ask me what the 7 steps are, so I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now. Very quickly, the 7 steps are: step 1 is define your why. I mean, you always have to start with defining your why. What is it that you want to achieve? Is it more diversity in your leadership team? Is it retention? What is it you're trying to solve? Step 2 is to find your program champion. Of course, that's the person who's going to create and manage your mentoring program. And there's so many things you need to think about when you're picking this person to ensure you have the right fit, because you need both that outgoing person, but you need somebody who can be accountable and get things done. So I give a lot of practical tips in the book about that. Step 3 is setting goals and metrics. You need to keep it simple, but yet you need to tie the metrics to both company goals and your people goals. Step 4 is build your program. And this is where you would define your budget, create your materials, your processes. You need to create some structure, but not too much. And I go into detail on all of that. Step 5, this is my favorite step. This is the one Bert and I talk a lot about. It's about recruiting and connecting. It's all about the 3 M's: mentors, mentees, and matching. And this step can make or break your success. You need to match for meaningful connections. And I go into great detail about explaining in the book about how to do that well. In step 6 is nurture your people in your program. You need to have orientation sessions and training and communication. It's critical to the success of your program. And then finally, step 7, measure to improve. Because if you don't monitor your results, you'll have no idea if you're succeeding or not. And if you want to have a program that's sustainable and scalable, you have to prove to people that it's working and that you want to keep investing in this. So you have to measure to improve and to prove that you are doing something that's meaningful, but for both your people and meaningful for your company. And these steps might sound easy, but there really are a lot of success tips about how to do each step well and lessons learned about what not to do in our book. And if you haven't seen it, this is our book. And also in a new online course that I created at hartnettacademy.com. And before I turn it back to Bert, let me leave you with this. As leaders in your own organizations, if you want to make a difference in the lives of your employees, I really do encourage you to consider creating a mentoring program within your organization so you can engage your employees, retain your talent, and become a better, more diverse place to work. And I think now we have time for Q&A, and Bert and I, this is our favorite part. We would love to answer your questions.
If you have I can't see you except for Miss Karen. Thank you for being on video.
Karen.
Oh, hello.
But if you have a question, and let me just tell you, there are some FAQs regarding my part of the book. And I'll go ahead and throw them out there. People say, well, what makes a good mentee? And the answer is, the first thing is they have to want to be there. Conscripted mentoring does not work. You can't take somebody, a mentee who doesn't want to be there, and put them with a mentor who doesn't want to be there and think that you're going to get anything but a disaster. So a really good mentee wants to be there, is open to advice, unafraid to implement that advice and work hard at it. Self-aware, and that is a very important part, because until you're self-aware, you cannot self-improve. And then, of course, they have to have the capacity to perform at a higher level. That's what a good mentee looks like. People say, well, as a matter of fact, when I go around the country, the number one question I'm asked is, Bert, is there a silver bullet to success? And turns out there actually is a silver bullet to success. And that is, if you want to be successful, hang around successful people. I mean, if you want to be rich, hang around rich people. If you want to be respected, hang around respectable people. And if you want to be successful, you have to hang around the right people. So the silver bullet to success is, if you want to be successful, hang around the right people. But there is a bigger, better, faster, stronger bullet, and it's the gold bullet. And here it is, while you're hanging around the right people, you have to find a great mentor. And I talk to younger groups about that, and they say, well, okay, well, thank you very much, Bert. How do I do that? And I say, well, the first thing you need to know is what a great mentor looks like. A great mentor, your great mentor, will have a sincere interest in you and your personal success. Number two, that person would have a demonstrated track record of success. I mean, if not, why would you listen to them? Three, they would have knowledge or expertise in your particular area of interest. And four, peer respect. Peer respect. Here's a tip. The greater the peer respect for your mentor, the greater your chances of success. Let me repeat that. The greater the respect by his or her peers for your mentor, the greater your chances of success. With regard to great mentoring, peer respect seems to be the ultimate litmus test. So again, Sherry and I can be talking about X, Y, Z. You want to hear about A, B, C. If you have a question, just shout it out.
So I have a question. Hi, hello everyone. My name is Karen DeGrasse, and I recently, among other things, started a mentoring program called Get Paid Society. It is for the untapped talent, people in the neighborhood, and PAID stands for Prosperity and Abundance Inspires Dignity, because it's not
I
about
love that.
Love it, love it, love it.
Thank you. So this is a very unique group of individuals, and I wanted to ask, you mentioned the importance of improving or showing that it's working. So what I feel would show that it's working is that they're getting results. Is that correct? They're seeing results.
Yes, and I would suggest two things to you. One is find what is a metric, a number that you can measure. So is it number of people that are successful, or a number of people that are in the program? Is it, how can you quantify their success some way with a number? And then also capture stories, because storytelling is a great way to explain the value from a personal standpoint. So I would collect both numbers and stories.
Great question. Anybody else? Is everyone else muted?
One question that I often get is it okay to have more than one mentor? And I absolutely think it's a great idea. We should all have more than one mentor. All of us, no matter what our age, no matter where we are in our careers, can benefit from more than one mentor. It's really about creating that personal developmental network for yourself. And I always recommend people have a mentor within their organization that can kind of help them with the internal culture, there's always culture and politics in companies. And so somebody internally that is at a higher level than you can maybe help you with that. But I also like to recommend find somebody within your industry that's not in your company. They can help you because then you can talk more openly with them about things going on in your organization and they can give you that help. But also have people in your personal lives, people that you just respect and admire in the community. Maybe it's another woman, for example, from my standpoint, a woman that's balancing career and kids and volunteer work and charity work. And, I want to know, how are they doing that? So it's very, very beneficial to have a variety of mentors, and they change throughout your career. Your needs change throughout your career.
I tell people that I think people sometimes ask me the definition of success. Bert, what is success? And I think a successful life is about creating and adding value. And where better to add value than in another person's life? So for me, Mark Twain famously said one time, the two most important days in your life are the day you're born and the day you realize why, the day you find out why. Once I got through the business side, the business mountain, and retired, the second mountain for me was a passion for helping other people create value in their lives. And that's what this book, High Impact Mentoring, and it's a practical guide to creating value in other people's lives. It's not a history book. It's a step-by-step, do this, don't do that, say this, don't say that, 7 steps to success in a major program. Well, let me go ahead, and if nobody has questions, I see a chat down here. Let me just double check that.
So Bert, that was for me. I said I will be doing a webinar for employers in October in the manufacturing industry. And I wanted to make sure that you all have that book available because I will be referring it.
Wonderful.
Well, let's do this. Karen, have you got a pen?
I'm ready.
404.
Say, start again, please.
404
Yes, sir.
915 5383. Okay, that's my cell number. Call me offline. Give me an address to send you a copy of the book, and I'd be delighted to do that.
Thank you. I'll be using it for myself.
Great. Well, I'll send you as many as you want, because you're doing in your arena exactly what Sherry and I are doing in ours, and I love you for it. I think it's a wonderful thing. So let me just close out here with a little story. They say, well, does mentoring work? I'm going to give you a little peek behind the Waffle House curtain today. I'm going to tell you a story that non-Waffle House people don't get to hear, except for you today. And it's a story about the power of successful mentoring. It's a story about a young man named Dave Rickle. I first met Dave when he was a bright young Waffle House unit manager. That means he had one restaurant. If you're familiar with Atlanta, his Waffle House, the restaurant he managed, was on Northside Drive, just off the Georgia Tech campus in Midtown Atlanta. I'd heard about Dave for quite some time. A bright young man, premium university, Cornell graduate, ex-athlete, lacrosse player, great core values, great people skills. Knew I had to meet him. So I went to his restaurant early one evening when I knew he would be working the supper shift. I drove in the parking lot, walked in the restaurant, and there was Dave doing exactly what he should have been doing, behind the counter, taking care of business. And he rushed out to shake my hand and meet me, and we chatted for a few minutes out front, and then we got behind the counter at the Waffle House and did what Waffle House people do for you every day: cook, clean, wash dishes, bus tables, whatever it takes to give you great service. And then I took him in the back room after about an hour to get to know him a little better, and that's when Dave asked me the question that would change his life and his career forever. He said, "Bert, how do I get promoted?" I said, "It's simple, Dave. You make yourself the obvious choice. You make yourself the obvious choice." He said, "Great. How do I do that?" So what ensued that evening and over the next 15 plus years was a series of conversations, mentoring conversations about what it takes to succeed in life and business. I ran into Dave about 5 weeks ago at the Waffle House corporate office in Atlanta. And I asked him the question I'm fond of asking people I raised into business but haven't seen for a while. I said, Dave, what have you learned since I saw you last? And he said, Bert, I learned you were right.
Good answer.
Great answer, Dave. Great answer. He said, I said, right about what? He said, do you remember the first time we met? I told him I remember it well. He said, you looked me in the face and you said, Dave, you can succeed if you care, if you try, if you learn, if you stay. You can succeed if you care, if you try, if you learn, if you stay. He said, you told me I had to care. You said, Dave, if you don't care, nothing else matters. But caring alone is not enough. Caring will get you into the starting gate, but you've got to try real hard to get out on the track and beat the competition. And he said, you told me I had to learn something every day, that I had to read something every day, and I have. And he said, you told me I had to stay. You said, Dave, there'll be 100 reasons every week for you to do something different, but you need to stay and bloom where you're planted. Dave did stay, and Dave's done well. Today, Dave is one of 3 operational executive vice presidents with Waffle House. Dave's top line on his organization's annual revenue, his top line on his P&L is in excess of $1 billion with a B dollars. And on any given day, Dave has between 30 and 35,000 people working for him. I tell people Dave's done well, but he hasn't done any better than you and I can do if we care, if we try, if we learn, if we stay. We got to care the most. We got to try the hardest. You got to learn something every day. If your job or your company is growing faster than you are, you're falling behind. And you have to stay. All your life, people will try to tell you that grass is greener on the other side of the fence. But here's what we need to remember. Everybody's grass has dirt on the bottom. You just have to be standing close enough to see it. So with that, I want to thank you so very much for your attention. Remind you that this book is available on Amazon. If you have a very worthwhile cause and you copied down my number and you want to give me a call, I'll send you a copy of the book if you'll just let me know how to do it. And Karen, thank you so much for your interaction. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you all for inviting us. It was great to see you today. We hope you enjoy and that you're as passionate about mentoring as we are.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
And we still have a few minutes.
Well, if anybody has questions, Sherry and I are here.
Yeah. Congratulations, Sherry, Bert. It was a good session.
Good.
I have a quick question, if nobody minds.
Yep, go.
We love answering questions.
Okay, I'll put myself on camera. So I think what I really liked about your approach was it was very practical and it was very human based. How do you get around corporatizing something that is about people? You know, just what you shared about caring first, right? Everybody wants to make a mentoring program, but it's about people. How do you get away from that?
It's always about people first. I think the approach that I have found successful at most organizations is they first want to hear about the bottom line and the ROI and how it can solve the company problem, and it can. And then once you can get them interested in that concept, then you can focus your efforts on the people and really making sure that you're creating that value in people's lives, because it's not a cookie cutter approach. Every person is different and every person needs to be mentored a little differently because they all have different goals, different ambitions, different skills. So I really think it's kind of capturing that interest on the corporate side and then making sure that you're focused on people at the end of the day.
That's why Sherry's section of the book is so spot on, because what she does is she matches, she first thing she does is ascertain what the mentee needs, and then matches that with the mentor's ability to deliver that, and then puts them together with some sort of interpersonal interest, which creates a bond. She matched an accounting major with a woman in downtown Pensacola who ran an accounting firm, but she put them together because they both love tennis, and they're still playing tennis together.
Because you really have to build that relationship first. And there has to be some sort of common interest, because you have to build trust. There's not going to be any effective mentoring until there's trust between the two people.
And I think that's what I see is when there's an organic relationship that has that connection, mentoring isn't a chore. It's actually a gift, and it's a mutually exchangeable gift, right? You're learning and you're teaching, and it's wonderful, and it doesn't go dry. But when you have these artificial relationships somehow where there's no connection, I think those are the ones that grind through and they become hard for everyone.
And I'll add to that, I think we might have mentioned it, but Bert and I both agree, you cannot make somebody be a mentor and you cannot make somebody be a mentee. It can't be mandated, and you can't just arbitrarily stick people together, because who wants to do that? It's just extra work.
So sometimes you have a lot of volunteers, right? People who want to do both sides, but it's the connection. I think that's what you're also raising is, and in order to do the connection really well, you have to know the people really well, which means you have to have spent the time getting to know those people and understanding what their needs are.
It's a very high touch kind of proposition. Some people do use, there is technology out there for mentoring and matching, but I think the best, most successful programs is very high touch, making sure that you're matching the right people with the right needs with somebody that has the right skills and personality to help them.
So we certainly agree, conscripted mentoring does not work. You have to have on one side of the table someone who has a passion for giving back, and on the other side of the table someone who has a passion for learning. People ask, one of the common questions is, you know, what are some of the things that make mentoring not work? You know, can a young woman mentor an older man? And all of these, here's what I tell people. If you've got a mentor who wants to be there, has an interest in that person, has been successful, has knowledge in that person's area of interest, and you've got on the other side of that table a mentee who wants to be there and is open to advice and has a passion for learning, they can overcome any problems that come up along the way.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think I heard a quote recently, which was that, maybe I read it on Facebook, who knows, but it was about learning doesn't happen when there is someone available to teach. Learning only happens when there's someone available to learn.
Right.
Yes.
And I think that's the key, right? You may have two willing partners, but if they're not connected and they're not going to be well connected, then there's going to be this problem, because any difference is then going to be a problem. Right? Then it's like we start to get silly about, oh, well, you know, you've never been on drugs, so how can you tell me the drugs are bad for you? Well, I don't have to have been on drugs to tell you that, you know. It's like there's other ways of knowing things, and that's what I've liked about what you've said so much, because it's very practical. Sometimes mentoring programs are like very difficult, and they're very, you know, pie in the sky, wishy-washy stuff.
I talk about, and that is just, Karina, that's just such a cogent remark. You don't have to be on drugs to understand they're bad for you, but you can't say drugs are bad for you. You need to get off of them. I tell people, when somebody's hurting, you have to start in the hurt. You can't start where you are. You have to start where they are. You can't say, I feel great, you should too. I'm doing great, you should too. I'm not on drugs, you shouldn't be either. You have to start in the hurt and walk them out of the hurt with you. So spot on.
I think that's the difference between what
session
people
will
think
end
about as knowledge. We're going to end in a split second. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's fine. Well, you know what? I think it was
Brandon,
great.
did you write my phone number down?
I did not get it. I got part of it, and then I thought, well,
404
yeah.
915
Yes.
5383.
Okay, I have the book up on Amazon, but I'll send you a text. I'd appreciate that.
Wonderful. It was good talking with you.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye, y'all.
Bye,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Care. Bye.
Well.
Thank you.